Los Angeles Coliseum, and they gathered earlier today in numbers that anticipate a new Super Bowl of motocross attendance record. Already, North America's best motocross riders have given this massive congregation the action, the thrills, the competition for which this event is justly famous. 80 challengers have been reduced to 21 finalists, preparing now for the 11th and last Super Bowl of motocross in the Los Angeles Coliseum. 50 years ago, this Coliseum was christened by the 10th Olympiad. Now Los Angeles prepares for another Olympics. And this sport, motocross, and its Super Bowl, which was nurtured and brought to life here in the Coliseum, moves to new environs, they say, to New Jersey and the Meadowlands in 1983. I'm Ken Squire, here to bring you all the starting gate action, all the oh my heart Titanic thrills of that gigantic leap that is so familiar to Coliseum crowds as we ring down a chapter in motocross history. Working with me is Dave Despain, as he has in the past. And David, this gets down to another one of those battles between defending champion and the best new kid out of the gates.
Well, Ken, it really does. Two men share the center stage here tonight. The new kid is Donnie Hansen, 22 years old, had never won a Supercross race at the outset of the 1982 season. But tonight, he can lock up the lucrative National Series Championship, and with it, a $120,000 bonus. Mark Barnett is the defending series champion. He locked up that title right here a year ago in the Super Bowl.
With 10 of 12 meetings complete, Dave, here are the Supercross standings. If 22-year-old Donnie Hansen stays a position up on defending champion Mark Barnett, he'll be the champion. Barnett must finish in front of Hansen. Some of the great names from the past in this event. Jimmy Ellis, the man from East Hampton, Connecticut, looks good for the program tonight, as well as Mike Bell, too tall, 6'3", back off some injuries. And there's the golden boy, Brock Glover, 23, out of California, three-time national champion.
Let's take a look at this longest, the most spectacular, and the fastest of all the stadium motocross courses now, built at huge expense here on the floor of the Los Angeles Coliseum. The key area, the start.
It's a pretty fast start, so getting out of the gate good is very important. I'm going to be concentrating on the mechanism that controls the gate falling down, and as soon as I see that thing flinch, I'm releasing the clutch and going.
After that cavalry charge down the front straightaway, a series of tight switchbacks, the first turn absolutely critical, and then the climb up 3 stories into the peristyle of the Coliseum.
Well, it's really tough, Dave. When you come out up the hill and then you just basically leap up into some darkness up in here, and then when we land to, between 2 cement pillars, which is amazing in itself. We turn around, and when we come back out, it's just a jump that you do see some people in the stadium, and you see a little bit of light, but mostly you're jumping into darkness.
That 100-foot leap, the breathtaking drop back to the floor of the stadium, leads to 2 of the key areas. They're called whoop-de-doos. This is a great place to pass, but if you don't do it right, it's also a great place to crash. There's an example right there. Here at the Coliseum, the finish line is found on the backstretch at the crest of a 10-foot leap off into space. A great course, Ken.
The peristyle of the Los Angeles Coliseum, where they will leap these 250cc bikes weighing some 215 pounds, about 50 horsepower, down some 100 feet tonight, the last time out. Jimmy Ellis, twice a winner out of New England. It still sends shivers through his body to think about winning this event, up against 20 others who all have one thing in mind right now: winning the final Super Bowl in the LA Coliseum.
They've got the crowd on their feet, Ken, as we get ready for a start here in the Coliseum.
Nearly 70,000 awaiting the start. 21 riders in the gate. The whole shot is critical. They're away. On the break, Hansen is lost in traffic, and breaking out in front is Mark Barnett.
Great start for Barnett. Hansen buried back in the ruck, and that is absolutely critical to the outcome of this championship. Barnett has Brock Glover on his heels as they head for the peristyle the first time out. Hansen way back in 10th spot.
Moving to 3rd spot, surprisingly on the start, Jimmy Ellis, the winner in 75 and 76, as they come to the peristyle. Here's Ellis down the inside, going to 2nd place. Jimmy Ellis taking 2nd. He's 26, and some say he's too old.
Well, he's not had a couple of good years here. In fact, his last major conquest was in the Super Bowl. He's just not been riding up to snuff, but he's fired up tonight. He really wants to go after Mark Barnett. He wants to win another Super Bowl.
Here they come for those critical hoop-de-doos now. Mark Barnett pulling away a bit. Challenged by Brock Glover on Ellis. Here they come for the lead. Some 70 feet of clearance through the air as they all are in good shape halfway through the first lap.
Barnett out front and charging. He knows what he's got to do here tonight. The mathematics for Mark Barnett are the essence of simplicity. He's got to go out and win this thing. He has to finish ahead of Hansen to keep alive his title hopes, but that's a slim hope at best. He's got to win this race to be in good shape.
Out of the sand pile, down the straightaway up to 75 miles per hour. Now on the clutch, shifting, coming down. Mark Barnett is in trouble. The leader has crashed. Ellis goes down. New leaders.
That's going to move Glover out into the lead. Barnett just ran it up into the hay bales. He caught Ellis, and Ellis went down too. That gives us a new leader in Brock Glover.
Mike Bell is taking over. Too Tall Bell in second place. Two former Super Bowl winners running 1 and 2. Here they come for the Peristyle lead.
So suddenly it's the two former Super Bowl winners, Brock Glover and Mike Too Tall Bell, out front and having at one another. Those two, of course, are teammates. That really pile up a big heartbreak for Team Suzuki and Team Honda, as one each of their stars have gone by the wayside. Now Bell making a move on the inside, and he's passed Brock Glover to take over the lead.
Mike Too Tall Bell, who's been injured all season long, has only ridden in 2 of the 10 previous events. Has it all gathered up. Glover comes at him through those hoop-de-doos. Headed now for the sand pit, critical part of the course. 69,010 people are watching Mike Bell and Brock Glover for Team Yamaha lead a host of Hondas here as we're underway in the Super Bowl of Motocross for 1982. With Dave Despain, I'm Ken Squire.
Key element here, of course, the two series leaders, Donnie Hansen, who got a bad start. He's way back in 8th spot. Mark Barnett, whom we saw crash on the second lap back in 17. And their drama is going to be very much the story of this race as Mike Bell continues to lead Brock Glover up front.
Leading the airborne charge, Mike Too Tall Bell, 6'3", 180 pounds. They say he could ride a bike before he could walk. His dad has brought him along, Bill Bell, over the years. He's been a great champion. He has sustained some injuries, but he's riding flawlessly right now.
Riding marvelously under the circumstances. He has had surgery on both his knees. The knees are so critical in this form of competition because of the body English that you have to use and to absorb the punishment of those hard landings.
180-pounder out here. Most of these riders 130, 140 pounds. He uses that weight, distributes it on the bike to get more torque on that rear wheel. It makes a big difference.
Here's Donnie Hansen. He is in 8th spot. He's known as the best starter in Supercross racing. Tonight, when he really needed to uncork one to lock up the championship, Hansen found himself buried back in the ruck. So now he's scrambling, but the key here is that he is in front of Mark Barnett. The pressure is on Hansen to stay in front of Barnett. Here is Mark. He has moved up to 14th spot, and I'll tell you, Ken, he's charging through traffic out there.
He must finish in front of Hansen if he wants to run this championship down to San Diego for the last race of the year.
Let's go back now and see how Mark Barnett lost the lead. Working lap 2, leading the race. Up high on the turn, the bike wheelies, and he loses the front end, loses control, bounces off the straw bales. Here comes Jimmy Ellis, number 60, and rams the front wheel of Barnett's fallen motorcycle. Ellis gets pitched right on his head. And on the outside, Brock Glover and Mike Bell squirt by to take the lead, but they didn't stay in that order very long. Bell said before the race, you've got to be aggressive, and he went for it in one of those 2 whoop-de-doo sections where we mentioned earlier it was a good place to pass. He ducks down on the inside, carefully controlling the throttle so as not to wheelie, not to lose control, and Mike Bell squirts into the lead.
Mike Bell, who has not won since 1980 in San Diego, only ridden twice previously this season. At the Pontiac Silverdome when he finished 3rd and 8th. Now has himself a lead of about 12 bike lengths over his teammate, Brock Glover, in 2nd place, Gibson maintaining 3rd.
Don't count Glover out of this thing. He has really matured as a Supercross racer. He knows how to make the moves that it takes to reel in the leader and to make the pass if he can get there. There's Glover in that same area where Barnett was brought low earlier. The interval only about 15, 20 yards, and that is certainly something that a rider of Glover's caliber could make up as he chases the leader up into the peristyle.
Mike Bell, who loves to snow ski. He uses some of that style right here as if he's coming off a big mogul. California mountains like Mammoth, where he does a lot of winter skiing, holding this bike before a record crowd of 69,010 for the Super Bowl of motocross. His last outing here in the LA Coliseum, and what a surprise as Mike Too Tall Bell, who many said just wasn't back up to snuff, rides through those hoop-de-doos, comes for that line again, and ready to unleash another 70-foot leap down here into this 8th turn area. Mike Bell is #1 in the Super Bowl of motocross currently. Brock Glover sustaining 2nd place. Jim Gibson, the strongest rider they say on the course, is in 3rd here in the Super Bowl of motocross. Mike Bell, who won this event in 1978, and said afterward he couldn't believe he'd won the Super Bowl until he awoke the next morning and found the cup at the foot of his bed.
Meanwhile, there's a great race going on for 5th and 6th positions. Johnny O'Mara on the red Honda being pursued by Jeff Ward on the green Kawasaki. The race for 5th and 6th up the front straightaway and preparing for that climb up into the peristyle. Ward closing it up a little bit. These two kids, both Southern Californians, and they've come through what is now a traditional progression in motocross. They both started competition in the mini-cycle ranks in their pre-teen years, moved up onto the factory teams as teenagers, getting paid big salaries to ride professionally while they were still in high school. O'Mara down that long leap with Ward in hot pursuit. These two kids are both fired up and looking for the opportunity to score their first win in the Super Bowl of motocross. Now here they come into that critical section where Glover lost the lead to Mike Bell. O'Mara through first. And here is Ward closing right up on the rear wheel for just a moment, then over the finish line jump. Still, O'Mara leading Jeff Ward in the race for 5th and 6th.
Meanwhile, David, Michael Too Tall Bell continues to dominate the event. Earlier, he compared those longer outdoor moto courses with these stadium events.
It's a lot more physical. The courses are quite a bit narrower here. And, you know, the jumps and everything, it's just a lot tighter, and everybody has the same idea. They know, hey, I've got 20 minutes to get the job done. If you're outside, you know, you got 45 minutes. So there's just no time for playing around. No nice guys.
Well, there is one of the nice guys, Mike Bell, no matter what he says. Too Tall, very much liked in the business, an all-A student when he was in high school.
One of the most personable guys out there, and I know a lot of these competitors share the enthusiasm that we feel to see Bell back on top. Meanwhile, Mark Barnett is on the charge. He's moved up to 10th place on bike #1. There, he's working on his teammate Warren Reed side by side over the jump. Goat Brecker on the green #15 involved in that battle. This is Barnett trying to claw his way back to Donnie Hansen. Remember, he has to beat Hansen tonight to keep alive his series title hopes.
Riverside, California's Goat Brecker goes high, and Mark Barnett, #1, moves into 8th. He is just 1 position behind Hansen. Hansen is in 7th place right now, and Mark Barnett wants to close on him, go by him to keep his hopes of the Supercross title again for 1982 in his domain.
Barnett setting his sights on Donnie Hansen, the 7th place rider, trying to reel him in. There is Hansen, currently enjoying a comfortable lead over Barnett. Remember, that race for 7th and 8th is critical to the final series championship standings.
And remember, if Hansen finishes in front of Mark Barnett, he'll pick up a $100,000 bonus for winning the series. There's your leader, Mike Too Tall Bell. He takes this seriously. His training program, incredible. He bicycles 25 to 30 miles 3 times a week. Then he motos 3 times a week. He has an incredible calisthenic and weight building program, not so much for bulk, but for endurance. And you can see why they need it as he takes these jumps and stays in great form. The former ultimate crasher becomes the ultimate racer here in the Super Bowl of motocross. It is Mike Bell running in first place. Can he win it for a second time? Brock Glover is in second, Gibson third. The story, though, is Hansen and Barnett.
The key to the National Supercross Championship is Mark Barnett back in 8th place, racing Goat Brecker, who has slipped back a little in 9th. There is your 7th place man, Donnie Hansen, exiting that whoop-de-doo section. Mark Barnett rounding the turn and just entering that section. The interval now being measured in yards as Hansen tries to keep Barnett behind him and thus clinch this lucrative national crown.
Donnie Hansen started out as a flat track racer. He first came to light in 1979 on the Motocross Series, and he has just progressively moved up, and now he is challenging for the top. Big money here for him if he can just stay up and stay in front of Mark Barnett, who is directly behind him.
Hansen's trying to buy himself some insurance here. He's working on Jeff Ward and his teammate Jim Gibson, who had run as high as third in this event. But now Gibson slips behind Jeff Ward. Here comes Hansen up alongside. Hansen trying to move into sixth place and does. Donnie Hansen gives himself a little pad against Mark Barnett as he takes over sixth spot.
One would wonder how many more times we'll see Mike Bell in motocross competition. He has eyes for going into auto racing. He's already making some plans for some off-road racing, and he'd really like to get into the four-wheelers, he says. But right now, he's focusing, concentrating on bringing this bike around to win his second Super Bowl of motocross.
Back in 1980, when Bell won this series championship, he peeled off 6 victories in a single season in this kind of competition, but he's not won since October of 1980. And this win, if he can hold on and pull it out, Ken, is going to be particularly sweet. A great comeback for Too Tall Bell.
His Yamaha teammate Brock Glover in second. White flag is about to be extended. Final lap.
And the white flag also out for Brock Glover at 23 years old. $1 million contract for this young man in Supercross racing. That's a measure of how far this sport has come.
Fifth and sixth place riders headed for their white flag. Jeff Ward, and in that sixth position, red and white of Donnie Hansen. Dave Despade making his way down to the victory podium as Mike Bell stays in front. He appears on his way to becoming the last man to win the Super Bowl of motocross in the LA Coliseum. Next year to the Meadowlands in New Jersey for the Super Bowl. The creation of Mike Goodwin 11 years back. In those first years, Marty Tripes, an unknown 16-year-old, won it before they had this run up through the peristyle. Then came Falta of Czechoslovakia, Jimmy Ellis, Jam and Jimmy Weiner. And Bell, of course, won it here in '78. Here's Hansen, still trying to close on Ward to take out one more man before it's over to give himself a little insurance. Mike Bell in the final twist, the final turns of this serpentine 10-turn course that has created some of the most exciting action in motocross history. The Olympics coming here in 1984. And a standing ovation from 69,000 as Mike Bell wins the 1982 Super Bowl of motocross. Brock Glover is crossing in second place. For third, it will be young David Bailey, but the whole story is Mike Bell. A comeback after injuries to both of his legs, operations on them. He's put it all back together, trained for this one night, and he has pulled it off. Mike Bell of Lakewood, California, wins the Super Bowl of motocross. Hansen wins the Supercross Series, the $100,000 bonus, but it lacks the joy, the zest that now rests on the shoulders of Mike Bell, who will be remembered as the last Coliseum champion in motocross. Making his way to the podium and standing by to talk with him, as some of the fans are getting just a little tuckered out, is Dave Despade. Series champion Donnie Hansen, but he wanted so much more. Here's David.
Tonight, you really had to overcome a problem, though, with the knee injury that you've got. Did it give you any difficulty this evening?
Yeah, a couple times in some of the deep ruts, you know, I was aware of it. I didn't really have any problem, no twists or anything. They're getting better and better, but I guess I'll always be aware of the problem.
A whole lot of action very quickly early in the race. The crash for Barnett, you're moving up to the lead, and your pass of Brock Glover. Tell me about that sequence.
Well, when Mark fell and the Honda rider went down with him, I'm not sure who it was, I tried to move down to the low inside line, and it set me up in good position on Brock, and I just made a move on him and made it stick.
Congratulations to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Dave.
Super Bowl champion for the second time, Mike Bell. Back to you, Ken.
The rider they used to criticize is just too big for the tight confines of stadium motocross takes on